morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we're going to be taking a look at the new way to play Malamar. You see, ladies and gentlemen, Sword and Shield is out in Japan now, and sometimes that means nice new decks to talk about. Sometimes that means we take old decks and we rejig them into something a little bit new and a little bit different and a little bit fun. And like it or lump it, Malamar is one of the best decks in the game. It has been one of the best decks in the game for quite a while now. So it's probably time we looked at what happens in the Sword and Shield metagame. Now, obviously, the deck as a whole revolves around Malamar, lets you attach your psychic energy from your discard to one of your bench Pokemon once per turn per Malamar. That's fine. The question then is what we actually do in terms of attacking. Now, the one thing that probably shouldn't surprise you very much here, we're still playing Giratina. Of course we're still playing Giratina. One of the lists is anyway. Giratina is amazing, and it shouldn't be overlooked quite how ridiculous Giratina is. It's got the ability that puts 1 damage counter on 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon when you grab it out of the discard pile and put it onto your bench, which the ability allows you to do. And then it's got an attack that for free energy does 130 damage. And yeah, you've got to put 4 damage counters on one of your Pokemon, but usually you put it on Giratina because it's about to be KO'd, or you put it on Malamar because they're not able to KO, or whatever. It doesn't make a huge difference. We will be fine. But what else are we attacking with? Well, a lot of tag teams, to be honest with you, and a couple new Pokemon V. And since the Pokemon V are nice and new, let's start off by looking at them first. So we're going to show you 2 deck lists. They're quite different, if I'm honest with you, but they both play some of the new Pokemon V. But they can't really agree which ones. So one of the decks plays that new Indeedee V card. Now, Indeedee V's got a really nice ability that lets you heal 20 damage from your active, but it's also got a really nice attack for 1 Psychic, 2 Colorless that does 10 damage base plus 60 more for each energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. Cool. Well, that's good. Frankly, ladies and gentlemen, that's really good. So what you essentially do is wait till your opponent's got a lot of energy on a Pokemon and come and smash with Indeedee V. Now, one of the decks plays Indeedee, the other deck actually plays the new Wobbuffet. And the new Wobbuffet is very, very cool. Now, it's got an attack that does, 70 damage and stops your opponent retreating next turn. That's not particularly exciting. The better attack here is a 1 for 2 colorless energy that lets you swap all the damage counters on Wobbuffet and all the damage counters on your opponent's active. So if they can't get a 1-hit KO, you whack Wobbuffet in the active, they attack, don't get a KO, and then you just get to put all the damage onto them. So they end up not attacking, and that's kind of hilarious. The other one we see here is a copy of Cramorant V. Cramorant V, for my money, should be in these decks. Cramorant V, it's got an attack that lets you search any 2 cards and put them into your hand. Fine in the early game if you're absolutely desperate. Far more importantly, it's got an attack for free colorless energy, might as well be Psychic accelerated with Malamar, whereby you discard all energy attached to it and do 160 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So if they've benched a Dedenne or a Jirachi, you're getting 2 prizes. There's plenty of single prize Pokemon you can do here, or if you attack a Pokemon but your opponent retreats to the bench, same deal. You're trying to take cheeky prizes you wouldn't otherwise be getting. It's kinda cool. But it's not all about Pokemon V, there are some tag team Pokemon here as well, and both of them actually agree on 2 tag team Pokemon. Both lists play Mewtwo and Mew. Now, Mewtwo and Mew itself doesn't do very much, but it's got a whopping 270 HP and the ability to copy any attacks of your Pokemon EX or GX on the field or in the discard pile. It's got a GX attack that heals all of your Pokemon, but that's not really the main reason we play it here. The other one we all seem to be playing is Trevenant and Dusknoir. Yeah, evidently, ladies and gentlemen, we love Trevenant and Dusknoir. It's one of these Pokemon that can just absolutely come along and wreck your opponent's day. Now, the main attack we're looking at here, and there are a couple of attacks, but the main one we're looking at here is for free Psychic Energy. You get to do 150 damage, choose 2 random cards in your opponent's hand, and they shuffle them into their deck. Now, there is a nice GX attack here for 2 energy. At the end of your opponent's next turn, the defending Pokemon will be KO'd. And if you've got a 3rd energy on there, you discard all their energy as well, making it less likely they can get out of the active, and therefore more likely that they will get KO'd at the end of the turn. Cool. And of course, we should mention Mega Lopunny and Jigglypuff. It's kind of getting a little bit repetitive, but Mega Lopunny and Jigglypuff is amazing. Free colorless energy, 60 damage base, plus 60 for each EX and GX your opponent's got on the field. To be fair, we're seeing fewer of them now that Pokemon V are a thing, but please don't be silly enough to think that they have gone away entirely. And one of the list does actually play Mimikyu and Gengar. Does 50 damage for each trainer card in your opponent's hand. It's pretty cool, if I'm honest with you. It's not always going to work. It's not a guaranteed proposition, but what it is a really nice way to catch your opponent unawares if they've got loads of trainers in hand. Or you can use a GX attack that makes both players draw till they got 7 cards in hand, while stopping your opponent playing any cards next turn, so you're basically guaranteed a big turn of Poltergeist, and a rather fun time indeed. And one of the decks here does play Latios GX. It's got an attack that blocks tag teams next turn, so you essentially get a turn of immunity from tag teams. That's kind of fun. As well as the Naganadel, which has got an attack that does 170 to the bench. Incidentally, this list doesn't play Cramorant, because if you're playing Naganadel, you don't need to be playing Cramorant. It's kind of one or the other. And then we've got a copy of Dragonite GX here as well. The really gigantically big one that can do 270 damage. Yeah, it's for 5 energy, but you're accelerating energy with Malamar. And yeah, it's a stage 2, but you're not actually using it as a stage 2. You're copying the attack with Mewtwo. So it really doesn't matter. Sounds like fun to me. Now, in terms of other Pokemon here, we do see Ditto Prism Star because you're playing a Stage 1 Pokemon, that's pretty much a given. And we do actually see that both decks are playing Dedenne, just to give you that early game consistency. Worth noting that one of the lists does also play Oricorio, just so that when you have a Pokemon KO'd, the next turn you can draw until you got 3 cards in your hand. It's a good card. It sees an awful lot of play, and it's the kind of thing you shouldn't expect to see going away anytime soon. It's going to keep seeing play because it's pretty gosh darned awesome. Now, in terms of the trainer cards, we're not going to go through every single trainer in both lists, but it is very much worth pointing out some of the newer and weirder things we see here. Clearly, Quick Ball becomes an awesome option, even though we've got Mysterious Treasure that lets us discard a card from our hand and search for a Psychic Pokemon. Quick Ball lets you discard a card from your hand and search for any basic Pokemon. Make no mistake, the extra consistency is huge. We also see a little bit of Evolution Incense here to search out your Evolution Pokemon, which again, I know we've got Mysterious Treasure, but this gives extra consistency. Not to mention we can also play Cherish Ball here to grab our GXs, and at this stage we've got a really quite ridiculous list of cards we can actually use to search out our Pokemon. It's kind of hilarious. Both decks actually play Giant Charm here to give an extra 30 HP. You're using Giant Pokemon, you might as well pop Giant Charm on so you can get an extra 30 HP, give yourself a little bit more survivability. But honestly, for me, the big card that we got in Sword and Shield was Professor Magnolia. And functionally, it's just a reprint of Professor Sycamore. You discard your hand, you draw 7 cards. But this is a deck that needs to get set up. Discarding energy doesn't matter because of Malamar. And really here, you just need to get rolling. Getting rolling is absolutely huge, so that's what you do here. Professor Magnolia is the fastest, most aggressive supporter in the format, and it's very, very nice for doing this as well. What I should mention, one of the lists does actually play Chip Chip Ice Axe, so that if you can disrupt your opponent's hand well enough using Trevenant and Dust Noir, you can then fix their top deck, which is kind of hilarious, and it was going to hurt them, frankly, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to give them a fairly bad time. We do have a couple of lists to look at here. Here is the first one, and this one really is focused around Mewtwo and Mew. You've got your Trevenant and Dusknoir, your Mega Lopunny and Jigglypuff, you've got your Latios, but then you got your Naganadel, you've got your Dragonite. We've got our 4 copies of Professor Magnolia, but we've also got 4 copies of Marnie, which can be a little bit disruptive there as well. And this one does play in DDV. Looking at the second list, we've dropped Indeedee, but we've gained Wobbuffet and Cramorant V, and although we play Mewtwo and Mew, it's far less important, because we've got stuff like Wobbuffet and Cramorant, and then we've just got the 4 copies of Giratina here, to make it a non-GX deck in the same way we always have done. These are very different Malamar lists, but the message here is really simple. With the extra Pokemon search, and the added aggression of Professor Magnolia as a draw supporter, this deck is better than it was before, and there is an awful lot of potential coming along with this deck. Yeah, it turns out Malamar's still good. But I'd like to know your opinion on it, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to know what you think about this whole Malamar malarkey, so, let me know in the comments section. Malamar malarkey? That works. Go nuts, but please do remember the rule. Be nice, would you? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games that don't have Pokemon in, but that doesn't make them any less awesome. And by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.